So I would say the age that I realized I was a leader was high school, probably early high school. So I was in the Boy Scouts, and one of the elements of the Boy Scouts is it's always focused on youth leadership. And I recognized that because I was part of the first wave, my father started a troop at our church, or he supported a troop that was starting at our church. I had some opportunities to really exemplify my leadership there when there was no one else really to lead. I was one of the oldest, and the younger scouts would follow us regardless. So I was around 14, 15 years old. And there was a number of opportunities that came through that as well. So a couple come to mind. I was also in Taekwondo in middle school. And so there was a new Taekwondo studio that opened up close to my school and my home. And being one of the first and the oldest students in there, I was one of the students that never failed a test up until I got to my second degree black belt test. So there was only 3 of us out of probably 100 who started, 3 of us made it. But I recognized that my goal was always to serve and to help and to learn in the process. And so I had the opportunity to become a junior instructor. So that was probably my first formal leadership opportunity. So they would encourage me to go to the adult class, even though I was 13, 14. So that was a really cool opportunity to learn in a formal capacity and to have those expectations placed on me. The other example that comes to mind is also in the Boy Scouts. I had a chance to go to a week-long summer program called Aquatic School. And being one of the only black students or black youth there, and being out in the woods and learning how to become a lifeguard, swim instructor, we learned how to canoe and how to row boats. We were split into 2 different groups, and my group selected me as the captain of the group. I mean, these were groups of boys 15 to 20 in number, and they elected me as the captain. And I was like, are y'all sure? So that was one of the first opportunities where I was like, this is a lot of growth and I was excited about it. So those were 2 situations that really confirmed for me at a young age that I'm supposed to step into my leadership. I got a natural leadership award in high school, so that was really interesting. But those were probably the earliest examples that I could think of. My life hero. So I always wrestle with this question. My first response is typically to say my dad. Because my dad has always been there with me every step of the way. He's been very supportive. But at this stage of my life, the answer that came to mind is God. God is my hero. I don't know how else to define a hero except for someone who I would like to aspire to be like. And in this stage of my life, there are things about every person that I admire. And so when you combine them all, it's really the God in each person that I admire. So I really say that God is my hero. My favorite hobby. There's 2 answers that come to mind as well. My favorite hobby is chess. Chess is my language. Some call me a chess fanatic. I consider myself a chessologist, a chess enthusiast. So I've been playing chess since about 4th grade, and it's really moved from a hobby into a passion, but I also love reading. So I would say between the chess and reading, those are my 2 favorite hobbies. I love to learn. I love reading stories, especially autobiographies. It's almost like I can see the world through the eyes of someone else, so that's really exciting. It's how I wake up in the morning. I do a little bit of chess and then I do a little bit of reading, and that always starts my day off well. I think even this just happened a few minutes ago, or a little while ago today. A lot of people are surprised to find out that I was an Eagle Scout. I don't necessarily present that. I don't normally talk about it, and because of the spaces I find myself in, I don't think there are a lot of people involved with the Boy Scout program here in Columbus. And so when people find out that I'm an Eagle Scout, they're like, "What?" And one of the young ladies today was like, "You look like a Boy Scout." And I was like, "What does that mean?" So I think that's a pleasant surprise for a lot of people. And the other is that people are often surprised that I really don't follow sports. I don't really like sports. I don't really follow a lot of pop culture music. I never really try to keep up with pop culture. So, being from Dallas, Texas, I got the Texas bow tie on. The first thing people ask me is like, "What about them Cowboys?" And I'm like, I don't know. I haven't really watched TV seriously since probably 8th grade, so I don't know anything about sports. I keep up with just whatever I catch through social media. I think that surprises people. Like, oh, who's this black man who doesn't like sports? I like sports in themselves. I don't necessarily follow or subscribe to the culture around sports. I was like, I got enough going on in my life. I don't really need to pay to really focus on yours. I feel like some people know more about their sports heroes than they know about themselves. That's an interesting question. I feel like as I matured, I had different friends at each stage. So in middle school and late elementary school, my best friend was this guy named Kevin, and we had a lot of activities together, so taekwondo, scouting. So just that familiarity breeded our relationship. And then in high school, my best friends were Alex and Kelly. And that was also when I shifted, and I was very intentional about developing my black identity. I grew up in a predominantly white suburb, and so going from 8th grade to 9th grade, I decided that I was going to be black enough for myself and my community, so all my friends changed. And so in high school, I met my two best friends, who I'm still cool with to this day. So yeah, Kelly now is my two childhood friends that I stick with, but Kevin and Taylor were my guys in elementary school and middle school. Just get a lot of fun. That's when I realized I was a class clown. We would always get kicked out of class. We got in trouble in band in 6th grade. But yeah, as we grew into our identities, kind of grew apart in our friendship. My favorite form of artistry currently is poetry. So I've had this push-pull relationship with words my whole life. I feel like growing up, because I have a pretty quick wit, I process things pretty quickly, and words have come to me. I've always appreciated words, but I feel like my mom would really force me and strongly encourage me to learn words, and so I didn't like it until I was able to do it myself. And I wish I had discovered poetry earlier. Now I'm going to 3 to 4 or 5 different spoken word events, poetry events every month. And I fell into poetry when I had no other means during a dark period of my college days of expressing myself. I had so much pent-up frustration and emotion, I just poured it into some poems. And so I would say my favorite form of artistry right now is poetry, because I feel like people really show how vulnerable they are. They show how quickly they can make connections. I think we are very much storytellers, and we respond to stories a lot. So I think poetry has been one of the most authentic and most engaging forms of artistry for me. My favorite ice cream flavor in life is cinnamon. I don't eat a lot of ice cream anymore since I'm now plant-based, so I haven't really gotten into rediscovering dairy-free ice creams. But before I transitioned, I used to love cinnamon ice cream. I would eat too much. I'm kind of a stress eater, so I would get a milkshake all the time on the way home. So cinnamon is definitely my favorite flavor. And I liked it because you couldn't get it a whole lot of places. I always liked cinnamon on my oatmeal, so cinnamon ice cream was really, really good to me. I never liked chocolate. I don't like a whole lot of chocolate. It's weird. Yeah. No chocolate cake, no chocolate ice cream. Brownies are good. So my favorite quote in this season of life is, "Be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind." So in 7th grade, I had a teacher, my algebra teacher, Mr. Sudbrook, and he would put quotes on the board every day, and I would just very much focus on those every day. I would look forward to the new quote every day, and at the end of the school year, I remember asking him for the list of his quotes. And so I got this huge packet of quotes, and I carry that around with me. And so quotes have always been a part of me. That's where I get a lot of my wisdom and my philosophy from. But that one is something that I've really embraced over the last few years, learning how to adult, adulting 101. Learning that the world can't really tell you who to be. You have to figure out who you want to be, and then the world will warp and adjust around you. There's no one way to be. So being who you are and saying what you feel, because those who mind don't matter and those who matter don't mind. It just kind of shows you that your vibe finds your tribe, and that your values will determine who you're in relationship with. And if you don't share values, then you can work through it, but ultimately you may not need to be in a relationship. So those who mind don't matter. And what I found is that the people who really love me, who really care about me, make space for me to be me. And those who don't, we're not really that close anymore. And also, I've struggled with not feeling enough. I struggle with perfectionism throughout my whole life. I'm a recovering perfectionist. And so I'm working in this season, specifically in 2020, kind of our conversation earlier about not knowing where you're going, but taking that step anyways and trusting in the Creator. So really leaning in and being who I am and saying what I feel, that's super important. I think especially as a black man to externalize what I'm feeling, because otherwise it's like a pressure cooker and it will come out in ugly ways. So I've learned to just let it out when it needs to. Life mantra. So the first thing I hear when I hear about a life, or the first thing I think about when I hear about a life mantra is be the best you so we can be the best us. I really believe in this idea of collective individualism. I think there's this tug and pull between rugged individualism, which is very much the American way, pull yourself by your bootstraps, and then there's this collective mindset where we're going to care for each other. And it's this Ubuntu philosophy. I am because you are because I am. I need you to be the best you, because when you aren't at your best, I'm not at my best. And when you hurt, I hurt. And when you fail, I fail. That is really my mantra right now, is that I have to be the best version of me, and I need to make sure that you have everything you need to be the best you, and together we can be the best us. And I think ultimately, if more people adopted that mindset, they'd realize the balance where you can't pour from an empty cup, right? You've heard, put your mask on first, but that's not the end of the story. The end of the story isn't like, I put on my mask, you put on yours. Like, no, you put on your mask, and then you help someone else. And that ultimately the goal is to make sure that we all can thrive, we can all get to our destination. Five-year-old self. First thing I would tell myself is start writing things down. Memory has never been my strong suit. It's one of the things that got me interested in psychology and neuroscience, is understanding how memory works, because I haven't always remembered things super well. So I've learned to accept that whatever I experience becomes a part of me. Whatever it comes to my mind consciously is what is meant to come to my mind consciously. But I know that regardless of whether I can command it or call upon it, it's still a part of me. So I tell myself to journal more. I wish that I had remembered things and really I can relive those moments. I would also, 5 years old, I mean, that's like kindergarten, first grade. If I could talk to my 5-year-old self, I would tell myself to try more things, to ask more questions, and to really figure out what makes you happy. I think it wasn't until I got out of college that I recognized the importance of that. I feel like from kindergarten through college, I just was on this train that, I can move around on the train, but the train's still going one direction. And then you get to the stop, which is the end of your formal schooling, and then you're like, okay, what do I do now? And so I wish I had taken more time to explore and more time to really reflect on what I enjoy and not just what people think I should do. One of the things I always tell myself is I'm not going to want what you want me to want just because you want me to want it. And that was like this pushback I had in life. Like I did a lot of things because I was supposed to. I went into engineering because math and science is what you're supposed to do. My dad's an engineer, my mom's a doctor. You got to go into the sciences. Like scientists are respected. You got to be a doctor, lawyer, or engineer. And I'm like, maybe I don't want to be any of those. Maybe I want to be a chess coach. Maybe I want to be a poet. So it would have been this idea of like, hey, man, if I was talking to a 5-year-old, I'd be like, man, do what makes you happy. And figure out what makes you happy and do more of that. And try new things, because you won't know what makes you happy until you try it. So have fun. I say have more fun.